When new general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah took over the helm of the Vikings, a lot of people were thinking, okay, analytics guy, he's going to look at things differently. It's a breath of fresh air, moving on from the Spielman era and regime. And Kwesi has done some very interesting things this offseason. He's largely kept his veteran roster together. He extended and kept Kirk Cousins. He traded in division twice at the top of the draft with the Detroit Lions and the greasy grime of Green Bay Packers, and has made some very interesting free agency moves. And he sat down with Epstein of USA Today. Yeah, Epstein. It'll pass. It's like all the people named OJ in the 90s. It'll be fine. But he did an interview with USA Today talking about how analytics and how his approach on T-building went into his first offseason with the Vikings. And there's some really interesting quotes that we want to talk about and really dive into the mystique that is Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. So first off, he said this, quote, "I'll be frank. I'm Andy. Hi, Frank. The one asset where you get nervous about not burning it down is quarterback. He aims not to take a shot at quarterback coming off a blah, 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 blah. Talk about Kirk Cousins. But we don't have Tom Brady. Rude. Adofo-Mensah acknowledged, and we don't have Patrick Mahomes, which requires him to ask, is the Vikings quarterback perennially sufficient? The Super Bowl is more likely to win if you have that quarterback, Adofo-Mensah said. It's very unlikely to have that quarterback. Now, this may all sound like damning with faint praise Kirk Cousins and his decision to roll with him, give him a one-year, $35 million extension, making him the quarterback through the 2023 season. Also, reinstalling the no-trade clause so that limits options next offseason in case poop hits the fan this year. But he's just speaking facts. Is Kirk Cousins Tom Brady? No. Is Kirk Cousins Patrick Mahomes? No. But is Kirk Cousins going to give you the best chance to potentially win a Super Bowl this year? Yes. And that's why he didn't tear it down and burn it down. He could have traded Kirk Cousins this offseason. He could have traded him to the Browns or the Broncos or wherever. All right, but it didn't happen. And Kevin O'Connell, his history of Kirk Cousins, and Kwesi has talked about how it's a collaborative effort. So him and Kevin O'Connell decided to roll with Kirk Cousins. It is going to give them the best chance to win a Super Bowl because what Kwesi said, saying here about the quarterback position, it's not untrue. Like it is certainly true, where he's talking about, hey, you need a certain caliber of quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Like taking aside the Trent Dilfers and Brad Johnsons of the world, by the way, who were both competent NFL starters, not to denigrate them. They still have those Super Bowl rings. Don't mean a thing if it ain't got the bling, right? But is Kwesi going to, in his first year, just gamble, roll the dice, get rid of Kirk Cousins, bring in a rookie TBD, bring in a Mitchell Trubisky Ponder and that rookie TBD to compete? No, you ain't going to do that. No. And then talking about the analytics side, quote, "On the math side, I hope it's not going to sound arrogant, but I speak that better than any other GM. Where I don't know that I speak football better than them, but my worst thing is probably better than their worst thing." You know what I mean? So I think my ability to communicate in really every room in the football building makes me unique. And John Lynch has talked about this too. Like when he got the GM job in San Francisco, Kwesi was already there running up the R&D department, and he really spoke highly of Kwesi, where he's able to integrate both the R&D side, the research and development, the analytics side, and the football side. And Kwesi, I understand in like black and white terms, this quote comes off as arrogant, but I don't think it really does. I think that he's just speaking plain truth, and Kwesi's already gotten rave reviews from football people where he asks questions and he doesn't go out and spout things where he knows what he doesn't know, right? So he's going to defer to like the scouts. He's going to defer to the hardcore football people when it comes to hardcore football stuff. But when it comes to things that he knows about, when it's talked about analytics, I mean, he's the end boss. He is the level boss there. And it is a new approach, but I think it's one that, 20, 30 years from now, I think you're going to see more GMs like Kwesi as opposed to like old school meat and potato football guys. I think that's where the league is trending. That you, Rona? Nah. Then working the numbers, there's down at the bottom, quote, "There is a threshold of championship talent. I study these things, I know them, and if you don't have them, you don't win." That's very binary. So basically, you just need a certain level of talent on your rooster. The way you can screw up the job is deceiving yourself that you're there. So thinking that you have the championship recipe, you have the Dr. Pepper 23 flavors. You think that you got that right there, but You don't have it. You don't have it. But Kwesi, I do think he believes that the Vikings are close, or at least going to be close in the next couple years. So now we get into the meat of it. This is what they said. Quote, Adofo-Mensah has described the plan as a competitive rebuild. He believes the Vikings were close, but not at the necessary talent threshold to contend in 2021. Which is fair, and that their 2022 draft class gives them a chance, not a guarantee, but a chance to overcome the hump. So adding Lewis Seen and Andrew Booth Jr., as well as Brian Asamoah, I mean, that's a nice infusion of talent on the defensive back end, where the defense really was a problem last year. Also throwing Ed Ingram, who could start out of the gate at right guard. It's possible. He takes solace knowing that he's not dramatically sacrificing years in which the team need only pay rookie contract salaries to talents like Pro Bowl receiver Justin Jefferson and offensive lineman Ezra Cleveland, Christian Darrisaw. Random, just throwing Ezra out there. O'Connell's staff can embrace the challenge of maximizing those assets, all while Adofo-Mensah and his personnel staff decline to mortgage valuable draft picks. Neither on the field nor at the negotiating table does the Vikings team encourage just being aggressive to be aggressive. Quote, if it were a 7-game series, yeah, best team wins, Adofo-Mensah said. That's ultimately why when you're team building, you never want to go full Rams, because you need to give yourself 3 chances at it, 4 years at it. I know that's hard for fans to hear. And yeah, to a degree, what the Rams did, it's fantastic. Like they traded all those picks for Matthew Stafford. They traded picks for Jalen Ramsey earlier. They traded picks for they signed OBJ because the Browns cut him. They traded for Von Miller. They really went after the pin, and they got after him, man. F those picks, F the cap. That's what Les Snead and the Rams did, and it worked out. They won a Super Bowl. You can't argue with that. But being sustainable long term, and sustainability is a big buzzword nowadays, both in football as well as outside of football. But I do believe that Kwesi, not going all in, not going for the pin, not going for this or that, sacrificing the future for one shot, because a lot of things can go wonky. Because imagine if the Rams put together their team last year, and then they had a major injury. Like one of their major players went down, and then it's just foobarred. And they saw, like, after the big trades and signing, they had a lull. They had like a 3-game losing streak in the middle of last season where it didn't look pretty good. But being able to be competitive, being able to be at the tip of the spear on that bleeding edge for multiple years, where it's not that you're just giving all those picks up for known commodities. It's that you're drafting high-quality players, and your coaching staff is developing them into top-tier talent over and over and over again. That's the ideal system. Now, the Rams, we talked about at the time, maybe the Rams would have bucked the trend, and maybe teams would have gone more all in on that. But Kwesi, even though Kwesi has made some gambling moves in terms of trading in division with the Lions and the Packers at the top of the draft in 2022, I don't really see him just going for the pin. I do think that, to a degree, as a fan, obviously you want to see the big-time splashy moves, especially when you're on the cusp, and I think that the 2022 Vikings are, especially the NFC being what it is. But being able to be competitive, being able to be at the top, being able to be sustainable and go through every single year, I think long term that makes more sense. Instead of one brilliant chance at it, how about giving yourself 10 or not 8, 9, 10 in the next decade? I think that does make more sense. So yeah, I'm rolling with Kwesi in this spot, even though he said some things, like you said, that fans may not want to hear, but I think long term it's going to be the best case scenario for the Vikings. I think that Kwesi and this roster, they put themselves in the best chance to win and be competitive in 2022, as well as going forward. Now, of course, it would have been nice to trade multiple draft picks, go get yourself some great offensive linemen, as well as, I don't know, trade for Xavier Howard or something like that, but they didn't do it. I'm okay with that. We'll draft our own Xavier Howard. We'll draft our own legit offensive lineman, and then eventually we'll draft our own legit quarterback replacement if Kellen Mond isn't that guy to replace Kirk Cousins. But that's it. Kwesi, great article, USA Today, talk about team building. Let us know your thoughts on our thoughts and his thoughts and everyone's thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work, put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skull Production Value.